She said my mom would have loved the centerpieces. I knew she was lying. My name is Noah Whitlow. I am 34 years old, and I build custom furniture in Burlington, Vermont. 2 weeks before my wedding, I should have been excited. Instead, I kept catching my fiancée Danielle saying things that felt wrong. She would talk about my mother like they had been best friends. Problem was, my mom died when I was 16. Danielle never met her, but she would drop these little comments about what my mom would have thought about the flowers, the music, the venue. Always with this sad smile, like she understood my loss better than I did. Your mother would have been so proud, she said while we were tasting cake flavors. She had such simple tastes. Simple tastes. That stuck with me. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat after my dad left. She bought me school clothes from thrift stores and made me packed lunches every day for 6 years. Nothing about her life was simple. It was hard. But I said nothing, just nodded and told the baker we would take the vanilla. Danielle came from money. Her father, Gregory Walsh, owned a chain of car dealerships across New England. Her mother, Patricia, ran some kind of consulting firm for nonprofits. They lived in a house with a circular driveway and a 3-car garage. When I first met them, they were polite. They asked about my business, complimented my work ethic. Self-made men are so admirable, Patricia had said over dinner at their country club. It takes real character to build something from nothing. At the time, I thought she was being genuine. Looking back, I wonder if she was already measuring me. The wedding planning had been intense. Danielle wanted everything perfect. The venue was a restored barn outside Stowe. The guest list was 200 people. The budget was more than I made in a year, but Gregory insisted on paying for most of it. It is what fathers do, he said when I tried to contribute more. Besides, you will be family soon. Family. That word meant something different to them than it did to me. For me, family was my mom getting up at 5 in the morning to start her shift at the diner before her afternoon job at the department store. Family was her reading me bedtime stories even when she was dead tired. Family was the way she never made me feel like we did not have enough. But I was starting to notice things. Small comments. Looks between Danielle and her parents when they thought I was not paying attention. The way they talked about the wedding like it was their event, not ours. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for Friday night at the country club. Everything was arranged. The flowers, the menu, the seating chart. I should have been nervous about the next day. Instead, I felt like something was coming apart. I met Danielle 2 years earlier at a farmer's market in downtown Burlington. She was looking at handmade cutting boards at the booth next to mine. I was selling some smaller pieces, jewelry boxes, picture frames, things I could make in my spare time. She picked up one of my pieces, a small wooden box with dovetail joints, and asked how I made it. Most people just wanted to know the price. But she asked about the process, the wood, how long it took. We talked for 20 minutes. She was beautiful, obviously. Blonde hair, green eyes, always put together. But more than that, she seemed genuinely interested in my work. She bought the box and came back the next weekend. Then the weekend after that. The first few months were good. She would come to my workshop and watch me work. She asked questions about different types of wood, about joinery techniques, about how I learned the trade. I told her about my grandfather, who taught me basic woodworking when I was a kid, how I turned to it seriously after my mom died, when I needed something to do with my hands. It must have been hard, she said, losing her so young. It was hard. My mom, Linda, was diagnosed with ovarian cancer when I was 15. She fought for a year and a half before it took her. During that time, she never stopped working, never stopped taking care of me. Even when she was getting chemotherapy, she would pack my lunch and ask about my homework. The last thing she said to me was, "Make something beautiful, Noah. The world needs more beautiful things." I told Danielle that story on our 6th date. She cried. She held my hand and said she wished she could have met my mom. At the time, it felt like she really meant it. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. Maybe it was when I met her parents. Maybe it was when the wedding planning started. But Danielle began talking about my mom differently. like she was a character in a story instead of a real person who had lived and died and left a hole in my life. "Your mother sounds like she was such a sweet woman," Patricia said once, while we were discussing flower arrangements. "Very traditional, very uncomplicated." Uncomplicated. Another word that felt wrong. My mom was many things, but uncomplicated was not one of them. She was fierce and funny and smart. She read 3 books a week and could fix a leaky faucet and knew the names of every plant in her garden. But I kept quiet. I was in love with Danielle. I thought I was anyway. And her family was going to be my family. I wanted to make it work. The warning signs were there. I just chose not to see them. The rehearsal went fine. We walked through the ceremony, figured out where everyone would stand, practiced the processional. Danielle looked beautiful in her white sundress. Her bridesmaids were excited. My best man, Tyler, kept cracking jokes to keep everyone loose. After the rehearsal, we all headed to the country club for dinner. The private dining room was elegant. White tablecloths, fresh flowers, candlelight. Gregory had ordered wine for the tables. Patricia had put together a playlist of what she called appropriate dinner music. I was seated at the head table with Danielle, her parents, and my small group. Tyler, my Uncle James, and my cousin Rebecca. The conversation flowed easily. Everyone was in good spirits. I excused myself to use the restroom around 8 p.m. On my way back, I took a slight detour through the bar area to get some air. That is when I heard them. Danielle was standing near the windows with her parents, slightly away from the main dining area. They were speaking in low voices, but I could hear every word. "The flowers she picked were so cheap-looking," Patricia was saying. "Carnations and baby's breath, like something from a gas station." "Well, what do you expect?" Gregory replied. "She was a waitress, probably never saw real flowers in her life." Danielle laughed. Not a mean laugh exactly, but not kind either. "Noah gets so sentimental about her. He acts like she was some kind of saint." "She probably was a nice enough woman," Patricia said. "But let us be honest, she was not exactly sophisticated. Working class through and through. At least Noah inherited some ambition." "Thank God for that," Danielle said. "Can you imagine if he had turned out like her? All those little jobs scraping by, so ordinary." "Your mother was not even that special," Gregory added. "Just another single mother trying to get by. Noah puts her on this pedestal, but really, what did she accomplish? She raised a son and then died. That is about it." They were quiet for a moment. Then Patricia spoke again. "Well, at least we will never have to pretend to care about her again after tomorrow. Once you are married, we can move past all that sob story nonsense." I stood there for 30 seconds, maybe longer. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Then I walked back to the table, sat down, and finished my dinner. I smiled when people spoke to me. I laughed at Tyler's jokes. I held Danielle's hand when she reached for mine. But something had broken inside me. Not my heart exactly. Something deeper. Something that could not be fixed. I knew what I had to do. I just had to wait for the right moment. I sat through the rest of dinner like nothing had happened. Danielle squeezed my arm and whispered about how perfect everything was going to be tomorrow. Patricia complimented the salmon. Gregory told stories about his college football days. Everyone laughed at the right moments. But I was not really there anymore. I was thinking about my mom's hands. How they looked after a 12-hour shift, rough and red from washing dishes and serving food. How she would still take time to braid my cousin Rebecca's hair when she came to visit. How she never complained, not once, even when the bills piled up and the car broke down and the cancer treatments made her sick. Around 9 p.m., Gregory stood up and tapped his glass with a knife. "I would like to say a few words," he announced. The room quieted down. "Patricia and I are so proud to welcome Noah into our family. He is a good man with strong values and a solid work ethic." People nodded approvingly. Danielle beamed. "We know that tomorrow will be the start of something wonderful for our daughter and our new son-in-law. Family is everything after all." And now Noah will have the family he has been missing for so long. The family he has been missing, like my mom had not counted, like the 18 years she spent raising me alone, meant nothing. So let us raise our glasses, Gregory continued, to Noah and Danielle. May their marriage be blessed with all the things that really matter: prosperity, status, and the kind of life that his dear mother would have wanted for him, even if she could not provide it herself. The room erupted in applause. People raised their glasses. Danielle kissed my cheek. I raised my glass too. I smiled. I played the part, but I was done. The dinner wound down around 10:30 p.m. People started saying their goodbyes and heading home. Tomorrow was going to be a long day after all. Hair appointments at 8 a.m., photography starting at noon, ceremony at 4 p.m. Danielle and I walked out to the parking lot together. She was practically glowing. "That was perfect," she said, linking her arm through mine. "Everyone had such a good time, and Daddy's speech was so sweet." "Yeah," I said. "Sweet." She stopped walking and turned to face me. "Are you okay? You seem a little quiet." For a moment I considered telling her what I had heard, asking her why she had said those things about my mom, giving her a chance to explain or apologize. But then I looked at her face, really looked at it, and I realized that she did not feel bad about what she had said. She meant every word. The only thing she would be sorry about was getting caught. "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired. Big day tomorrow." She smiled and kissed me goodnight. "Get some rest, I love you." "Love you too." I watched her drive away in her BMW. Then I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. I thought about calling Tyler. He would tell me I was overreacting, that all families say stupid things sometimes, that I should not throw away my future over a few careless comments. I thought about calling Uncle James. He would listen. He knew what my mom meant to me, but he would also worry about me making a decision I might regret. So I drove home alone. I went to my workshop and turned on the lights. I looked at the pieces I was working on: a dining table for a young couple, a rocking chair for a pregnant woman, a jewelry box for a girl's 16th birthday. My mom was right. The world needed more beautiful things. I sat down at my workbench and started planning what I was going to say tomorrow. I did not sleep much that night. Around 5 a.m. I gave up and made coffee. I sat on my back porch and watched the sun come up over the mountains. It was going to be a beautiful day for a wedding. My phone started buzzing around 7 a.m. Text messages from Tyler asking if I needed anything, a call from the caterer confirming arrival times, an email from the photographer about the schedule. I answered what I needed to answer, but mostly I was thinking about the speech I was going to give. See, Gregory was not the only one who had prepared remarks for tonight. As the groom, I was expected to say something during the reception. I had written a speech weeks ago, something about love and commitment and looking forward to the future. I had practiced it in front of the mirror until I could deliver it without notes. But that speech was for a different wedding, a wedding where I married a woman who respected my mother's memory, a wedding where I joined a family that understood what sacrifice and love actually meant. This wedding was different. This wedding needed a different speech. I spent the morning rewriting it. I did not make it mean or vindictive. I just made it honest. Around 10 a.m., Tyler showed up with breakfast sandwiches and coffee. "You look like hell," he said, setting the food on my kitchen counter. "Thanks. That is exactly what every groom wants to hear." "Seriously, are you okay? You were weird last night. Like, really weird." Tyler had been my best friend since high school. He was one of the few people who remembered my mom clearly. He used to come over for dinner sometimes when we were teenagers. My mom would make extra food and insist he take leftovers home. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Sure." "What do you remember about my mom?" Tyler looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Just, what was she like? How would you describe her?" He sat down across from me. "Noah, where is this coming from?" Just answer the question. Tyler thought for a moment. She was strong, really strong and funny. She had this laugh that would fill up the whole room. She was tough when she needed to be, but she was also the kindest person I ever met. She treated me like I was her own kid. He paused. She was classy too. I know you guys did not have much money, but she carried herself like a queen. Always dressed nice, even for work. Always made sure you looked good too. Remember how she would iron your shirts every Sunday night for the whole week? I remembered. She was smart, Tyler continued. Smarter than most people gave her credit for. She could have done anything if she had gotten the chances, but she devoted everything to raising you instead. Yeah, I said. That is what I remember too. Why are you asking? I told him what I had heard at the rehearsal dinner. All of it. When I finished, Tyler was quiet for a long time. Those people are garbage, he said finally. Yeah? So what are you going to do? I looked at my speech notes. I am going to give them exactly what they deserve. Tyler read over my shoulder. When he finished, he looked up at me with something like admiration. You sure about this? I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Okay then. He stood up. I guess we better get you ready for your wedding. The wedding day unfolded exactly as planned. Hair and makeup at the salon went smoothly. The photographer captured all the getting ready shots. The groomsmen looked sharp in their navy suits. The bridesmaids looked beautiful in their dusty blue dresses. I went through all the motions. I smiled for photos. I straightened Tyler's tie. I shook hands with guests as they arrived. I stood at the altar and watched Danielle walk down the aisle in her white dress, looking absolutely radiant. The ceremony itself was beautiful. The officiant, Reverend Mitchell, spoke about love and commitment and the sacred bond of marriage. We exchanged vows that we had written together. I slipped the ring onto Danielle's finger, and she slipped one onto mine. When Reverend Mitchell pronounced us husband and wife, Danielle kissed me like she meant it. The congregation erupted in applause. Her parents beamed from the front row. For a moment, I almost changed my mind. Almost convinced myself that what I had heard was not that bad, that people say stupid things sometimes, that love should be enough to overcome anything. But then I caught Gregory's eye. He winked at me and mouthed the words, "Welcome to the family." The same family that thought my mother was ordinary, unsophisticated, not even that special. No, I was done pretending. The reception started at 6 p.m., cocktail hour in the gardens, followed by dinner and dancing in the main hall. Everything was perfect. The food was excellent, the music was exactly what Danielle had wanted. The centerpieces looked expensive and elegant. Gregory gave a toast during dinner. He talked about how proud he was of Danielle, how excited he was to have me as a son-in-law, how bright our future looked together. To family, he concluded, raising his glass. The most important thing in the world. Everyone drank. I drank too. Then it was my turn. I stood up slowly, looking around the room at all the faces turned toward me. 200 people who had come to celebrate our marriage. Danielle's sorority sisters, Gregory's business associates, Patricia's non-profit colleagues, my small group of family and friends. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began. It means the world to us to have everyone we love in one place. Danielle smiled up at me encouragingly. I want to talk about family tonight, about what it means and why it matters. I looked at Gregory and Patricia. They were nodding approvingly. Family is not about money or status or having the right connections. Family is about showing up for each other, about sacrifice and loyalty and unconditional love. More nods. People were settling in for what they expected to be a heartwarming speech about finding new family through marriage. I learned about family from my mother, Linda Whitlow. She died when I was 16, but she taught me everything I know about what it means to love someone unconditionally. I could see Danielle's smile faltering slightly. This was not going the direction she had expected. My mom worked 3 jobs to support us after my father left. She was a waitress at Murphy's Diner on Main Street. She worked retail at the department store in the afternoons, and she cleaned offices downtown on weekends. The room was completely quiet now. People were listening intently. She never had much money. She shopped at thrift stores and clipped coupons and made our groceries stretch as far as they would go. But she never let me feel like we were poor. She never let me feel like we were less than anyone else. I glanced at Patricia. Her face had gone pale. She was the strongest, smartest, most dignified woman I have ever known. I paused and looked directly at Danielle. Her eyes were wide with something approaching panic. Last night I overheard a conversation that broke my heart. I heard my new family discussing my mother. They called her cheap, ordinary, unsophisticated. They said she was not even that special. They laughed about her flowers and her simple tastes. They said I put her on a pedestal, but really what had she accomplished? She raised a son and then died. That was about it. The silence in the room was deafening. I could hear the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic on the highway. They were relieved that after tonight, they would never have to pretend to care about her again. Never have to hear her sob story. Danielle had gone completely white. Gregory was staring at me like I had lost my mind. Patricia looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Here is what my mother accomplished, I continued, my voice steady and clear. She raised a son who knows the difference between real love and fake love. She taught me that character matters more than money. She showed me that dignity is not something you buy. It is something you earn through how you treat other people. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my wedding ring, the one Danielle had placed on my finger just 4 hours earlier. And she raised a son who would never stay married to someone who could speak about her with such contempt. I set the ring down on the table in front of me. The small metal sound it made seemed to echo through the entire room. I cannot marry someone who disrespects the only woman who ever truly loved me unconditionally. I looked around the room one more time. Thank you all for coming. I am sorry for any inconvenience. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. And then I walked out. I could hear the explosion behind me as I left. Voices raised in shock and confusion. Chairs scraping back. Danielle calling my name. I did not turn around. Tyler caught up with me in the parking lot. Noah, wait. I stopped next to my truck. You coming? He grinned. Hell yes. We drove to Murphy's Diner, the same place my mom had worked for 6 years. It was still open, still serving the same comfort food to the same kind of hardworking people. I ordered coffee and pie. Apple pie, my mom's favorite. Tyler got a burger and fries. So what now? He asked. Now I figure out what comes next. My phone had been buzzing constantly. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails. I turned it off. We sat there for 2 hours talking about everything except the wedding. About work, about fishing, about the baseball season. Normal things. Real things. Around midnight, Tyler drove me home. I thanked him for standing by me. That is what friends do, he said. I went inside and sat in my workshop until sunrise. I did not work on anything. I just sat there surrounded by the tools and wood and half-finished projects, surrounded by the things that mattered. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The story went viral on social media. Someone had recorded my speech and posted it online. The video got millions of views. Messages poured in from people sharing their own stories about being disrespected by in-laws, about standing up for deceased parents, about choosing dignity over convenience. Danielle tried to call dozens of times. I never answered. Her parents sent lawyers. I sent them back. Most of the vendors refused to work with the Walsh family again. The story had painted them in such a negative light that several of Gregory's business partnerships were quietly dissolved. Patricia's nonprofit consulting firm lost 3 major clients who did not want to be associated with someone who would mock a deceased single mother. Danielle moved to Boston within 6 months. I heard through mutual friends that she was having trouble dating. Apparently, the story followed her wherever she went. I took the money I would have spent on the honeymoon and donated it to a scholarship fund for children who had lost parents. I called it the Linda Whitlow Memorial Scholarship. It helps kids whose single parents are working multiple jobs to make ends meet. 6 months later, I was working in my shop when a woman came in looking for a custom dining table. Her name was Jessica. She was a nurse at the local hospital. She had kind eyes and calloused hands, and she spoke about her work the way my mom used to speak about hers, with pride and purpose. We have been together for 2 years now. She has never met my mother, but she honors her memory by the way she treats people, by the way she treats me. I still think about that night sometimes, about the choice I made to walk away from a life that looked perfect on the surface but was rotten underneath. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, but also the most necessary. My mom always said to make something beautiful. Sometimes the most beautiful thing you can make is a clean break from people who do not deserve you. That night taught me that some betrayals are actually gifts. They show you who people really are before it is too late to change course. They give you permission to choose yourself, your values, your truth over their expectations. I kept my mother's memory intact, and in doing so, I found my way back to the man she raised me to be.